We're now speaking with John Stanky about the tornado that went through Hitchcock, well, it started in Dundee County, Hitchcock, and up through Red Willow County in 1991. Where were you farming at that time?
I was farming north of Trenton. It was north of the Trenton Cemetery at the end of the road.
About distance?
It's about 2.5 miles.
Okay. And when did you first notice said tornadoes or bad weather?
Well, I was down here helping change the irrigation pipe with my mother, and when we got done, I went to turn the irrigation pump on, and it didn't, which should have been a clue. And there was a very dark cloud coming in from the west, moving from the west to the east. So I told Mom, I'm going home because that does not look good. Got through Trenton, got up on the top of the hill, and had to wait for a red pickup to go by, and was following him because I had to go about 3/4 of a mile east before I could get on the road to go home. I was cussing him. Finally got on the road and got up just past the Trenton Cemetery and ran into a light shower or rain veil, and got up to where the road splits before it goes past my neighbor and up to where I live, and got through the rain, and I could see a tornado about 1/2 mile wide, because I figured the cloud ceiling was about 2,000 feet, and it was wider than high. And it's coming in from the west, looking like it's going to go right where I live. So I decided I don't want to go north anymore. I'm at the road where the road splits, and I think I'll go west, and just turned onto that road, which I know probably as well as the back of my hand, and it started raining mud. Wind picked up probably 60 to 80 mile an hour, and it's a mile to the highway. It took me better than 5 minutes to get there, because I could only go 50 to 100 yards at a time before I'd have to wait, let things clear up enough I could see. Got to 25, the highway, and it cleared up. Drove out, turned around, come back, and when I got back to the Y, we had at that time there was a 69 kV power line that went by the road. It was laying on the ground, so that's not looking good. I get past the neighbor's trees and I can see my house, and it's still standing. So anyway, went up and lucked out. As far as the house, I had one broken window, had to replace a couple of shingles, had some damage to a granary because there was it used to be a chicken shed, and then my dad had converted it to a workshop, and then some other people had lived there for about 10 years. They converted it into a garage. It blew apart, caused some damage to my granary, to the barn, and took out one of the windows on the cab on my combine, and it caused some other damage. Fortunately, that was the only damage at the place. There was an oil battery tank about 1/4 mile north. It took the north battery, and as near as we can figure, that battery, which was probably a 10 by 15 foot tank, and ended up about 3 to 5 miles away.
Well, didn't they have some tractors they talked about that were...
There was some of the neighbors. The only way they could get their insurance on like combines and tractors was one guy had a combine, they found the engine. That's the only way they could identify it. My neighbor was farming west, and he seen it coming. He decided to abandon his tractor and take his pickup. He barely made it out, but anyway, the tractor didn't look bad, but it was totaled. With mud, debris, everything was in places that it didn't belong. So he lost the tractor.
Now, what was the effing, or the F scale?
The F scale, my dad went up to some neighbors that were just west of where I lived, and talked to some of the scientists that were coming through and examining, and they said it was an F5, which is
and it's the biggest this area's ever seen.
Yeah.
Nothing bigger.
Nothing bigger.
Or longer, because it went from, again, Dundee County through Hitchcock and into Red Willow County.
Yes. And the strange thing, you might say, is when you drew the line of its path, it did take out several farmsteads and cause damage to a number of other ones. But the path it picked, at least in Hitchcock County area, it missed, because if it went like a half mile further north or a half mile to a mile and a half further south, would have caused a lot more damage because it would have went through more places, or it might have went through several different towns. It came close to.
We'd still be looking for bodies.
Yes.
Yeah.
We were real lucky we did not lose anybody.
Yeah.
Fortunately, there was only 1 or 2 injuries that I know of.
Yeah.
Very fortunate in that aspect.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.